Okay. So, I have to cheat and have my solution over here on my other screen. Okay, so this was the homework assignment. The idea was to build like a little text RPG game. Michael, I loved the creative liberties you took there. That was really sweet. I was all into it. He had like a whole storyline cutscene going on. It was pretty sweet. It was pretty cool. But the first thing that we're going to do, and the structure are these little to-dos, right? And the idea is when you see the to-do, you just, underneath it, you just write your code and then go to the next to-do. That's kind of the idea. So each one should be its own little thing. The other thing that is kind of tricky, and I debated this, but I ultimately landed this way, is I was going to make it a blank slate and just tell you guys, like, code it. That would be harder in some aspects, but easier in others, because I've already declared some variables. Like, you guys think differently than me. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. And so just because I'm going down a path, you guys might have a different idea. But now you kind of have to conform a little bit to the ideas that I had. But then again, when you're in your jobs, very rarely are you going to make your own program from scratch. My very first job, I got hired at RC Willey, and I was a programmer analyst, and I used a language called Unibasic. Have you heard of that? Heard of that, Michael? Unibasic. And they didn't want to hire me because I didn't know Unibasic. And I told the person hiring me, good luck finding anyone who knows Unibasic that isn't retiring within the next 3 years. And he's like, good point. Okay, you're hired. We'll teach you. So it's a very, very simple language. But I remember I was so excited. I was finally a programmer. And I get this program. It's called TE95. And this is the logic, if you guys have ever been to RC Willey, when a salesperson writes you an order. The whole writing the order, committing the inventory, printing out the ticket, it's all stemmed from this program. And the request I got was when someone buys a washer, a lot of times they want to buy the hoses that come with it. They wanted to print on the receipt something like, here's the SKU for the hoses that are coming with it or whatever. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can do that. That's cool. I look at it. 10,000 lines of code. I look at the comments, and I am not exaggerating. That program was created the year before I was born. And I was like, what the heck? And so I'm literally looking at 27 years worth of programmers that were put into this program. And now I was going to put my mark on it, and I was so excited. But at the same time, I wasn't creating something from scratch. I had to look at what was already there without breaking something, and I was terrified. And I sifted through 10,000 lines of code until I found the exact spot where I did a print statement. That's all I did. And I printed out the ticket, and I saw, and to this day, if you buy a washer and you see that, I did that. And I called my friends, and I was so excited. I was like, guys, I've made it in life. I programmed something at a professional company as a professional. And it was like the greatest feeling in the world, even though it was the silliest and stupidest thing ever. So I want you guys to kind of get that as well when you're doing this. So as we go further in the semester, you are going to have more and more creative liberties because you're going to have more and more knowledge and tools under your belt. So at first, I'm going to have most of it coded, and then as we go throughout the semester, there's going to be less and less and less. You're going to have a midterm and a final that's totally up to you guys. I mean, your ideas, you're going to have to draft it, you're going to have to make it. So that's kind of the thought process with this, okay? So back to this, and I want you guys to help me. I want you guys to teach me how to do this, all right? So print the following to the console. What is your name, adventure? How do we print, or better yet, how do we print something that requires input? Start with input. Like that? Then what? Right, or what is your name, adventure? I'm just going to copy and paste it. Another skill of a software engineer is learning how to copy and paste. Okay, so what is your name, adventure? So what that's going to do is that's going to print that to the console, but because I wrapped it in this input, it's going to ask me to input something, right? Okay, have the user input their name and then print welcome player to Simple RPG. So by doing this input here, let's say I type in Bob, where's that data going to be stored? Nowhere yet. What do I need to do? Can I do that? Okay. So this says welcome player to Simple RPG. How can I write welcome? Print welcome. What? Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. So the way Tayden is saying it is you put plus, and then you put name, and then you plus. Yeah, and then what you do is, I don't even remember what I asked, to Simple RPG. So I'll put a comma, and I'll put to Simple RPG. So that's one way to do it. Now, you say you were having trouble with spaces? Yeah, so all you have to do is just put that space inside the quotes. So now it's going to say welcome, comma, space, name, and then right here you want to do another space to Simple RPG. That should get you your spaces.
Yeah, using that F, that helps.
So let's try it that way now. Walk me through it. How do you do it using the F?
Yeah, you start with F and then you do parentheses and then you just type all of it.
Welcome,
And then you do the curly braces at the end.
like this.
There
There
you go.
you go.
Is there like an instance where the other ways?
No, it's just all preference. Just so you know what's happening, this first way is this plus sign, it's kind of working the same way as if like 1 + 1 is 2. I don't know if you remember from our first lecture, when you have different data types, when you add things together, it just kind of depends what the data type is. If it was 2 integers, so instead of saying welcome, if I said like x plus y, and x and y were both integers, I would actually do the addition and print that out, is what would happen. But since name is a string, remember, because I'm putting a string in here, and welcome is a string, that's how you concatenate strings together in Python, is by putting a plus sign, and that's how you put them together. So this route is just doing that. I'm just concatenating strings together. This route is, I agree with you. I actually think this route is easier visually to see. There's really no difference as far as efficiency goes. It doesn't really matter. It's just preference. So, yeah. Yep, I agree with that. Okay, any questions? Yeah, what's up?
So if you're just trying to run, this is something that I ran into, so like I have this main.py file, but I couldn't run it because it would run all the other stuff in there, and so I had to create a separate, I had like 3 different separate files where I would like test it and run it.
Yeah.
Is there an easier way to just run those lines inside?
Yes, easier is a loaded term. There is another way, and what you would do is you'd put break statements, but that gets into the whole conversation about how does debugging work, and that alone can be a nightmare. Talk about a nightmare setting up your environment. If I went into setting up the debugger, it would be another headache. But you are welcome to YouTube to figure out how debugger works in VS Code. But basically, when I do a breakpoint here, I'm running my code until it breaks. And then what happens is it stops right there. So if you kind of want to see to where, you just add these breakpoints. And what's really cool is the debugger. Let's just try it. Honestly, it's a pain with C++. Maybe with Python, it's not bad. So instead of hitting play, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go Python debugger. Nah, it's still around the whole thing. There is a way though. You'd put a breakpoint in it, and it would kind of stop right there. What's cool about the breakpoints stuff is when you have loops, especially for loops, when you're trying to track a variable, you can step through the loop and you can see what's happening each iteration. So every time it loops, it'll stop and you can see. And then another thing you can do is you can track variables. So you can be like, hey, at some point this variable gets assigned something wacky. I want to know what it's being assigned. And as it goes through the program, it will stop and say, hey, this program is now, or this variable is now equal to this. Now it's equal to this. So the debugger is very, very, very useful. Unfortunately, it just, honestly, you guys should take a course on it. Like, it's a whole nother thing. But if I didn't use the debugger, I would do exactly what you did. I would make a new file, and I would just kind of go from scratch. Okay. So this says adventure class. So this is a variable, right? What's the data type?
It's a string.
Yeah,
Well,
so
it'd be an integer.
it'd be an integer, right? So choose your class, a 1, 2, or 3, right? And then it stores it as an integer. So the to-do here says write a series of if statements to set the status of the player's chosen class. The stats should be the following. So you have our barbarian, our knight, and our rogue. So each class, we have our max health, so that's the most health they can have. We have the maximum damage dealt, the player's speed, and the maximum heal rate. So I can give you a little bit of explanation of what I was thinking with this. So the health should be self-explanatory. That's how much HP they have. The maximum damage dealt, I was thinking of like rolling dice, like random. That's the most damage they can deal. They can technically, and most likely will deal less damage than that, depending on what your dice roll is. The speed, the point of that is it's a check. So if you have to roll at least an 8 to deal damage, if you roll anything under an 8, it's going to count as a miss. So notice how the classes get weaker, but their speed also gets, I guess, higher. The number gets lower, meaning that you can roll a lower number and still hit. So a rogue would be the quickest, so they can roll a 4 and still hit their shots. So I don't know if you guys understood that or not. That was kind of the idea. So then it says, please remember to create logic that does not allow the player to input anything other than a 1, 2, or 3. So this was kind of the first hurdle that some of you guys had. What do you think we should do here?
I use while.
While, and why did you use a while loop?
I don't know if it was the best move, but when I was putting the input, it was just checking if it was one of the three required, and then if it wasn't, the else was just you put in something.
That's absolutely right. Did you have something, Michael? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's absolutely right. A while loop is exactly what I would do as well. But what's the condition? Because with a while loop, you need a condition, right? Any ideas?
I just created a variable,
Okay.
and then as long as it was one of the correct answers,
Okay.
I just changed the variable.
Okay, so that's completely valid. So if I understand what you're saying correctly,
Yeah.
you would do something like, let's say like x equals 0, and then you say like while x is equal to 0, then you would have your like logic,
Yeah.
and then you do else x equals 1, right?
Well, so as part of the logic, if they got one of the correct answers, it would change it to 1.
That's right. So if this was the main one, it'd be x equals 1.
And then if it's
Otherwise, you don't need to do anything. Or it would be like print, please input something better. That is totally valid. Does everyone understand how he did that? So with while loops, you just are repeating code until a condition is met. And as long as you remember to fix it, you should be good. Now, if you forgot this line of code, we would be stuck in a loop. And your program would just keep running and running and running, and you'd have to Control-Alt-Delete. I was kidding.
I'm over there while loop later on.
Yeah, that you're just stuck in a loop. Okay, so that is a valid way. As far as efficiency goes, computationally, there's really no difference. As far as like programmers are lazy, so as far as like typing less things and maybe understanding a little bit quicker, there is a different way that I would do it. And this is how I would do it. I would do while true. So true and false, what data types are those? Are those strings? Booleans, right? The data type is a Boolean, true or false. Internally, the computer sees that as a 1 or a 0. So true is actually equated to a 1, and false is equated to a 0. But you can do while true, and it's important that you capitalize the T here. So while true. And I'm going to get rid of this, this else. Now, when you're scoping, and the word scoping means keeping your variables and your data contained to like a single block of code. When you're scoping in Python, indentation is important. Meaning, if I want things to be inside the while loop, I gotta give it a tab. Does that make sense? So while true, oh, and there is one more thing I forgot. We need to make sure we always put our colon there. Okay. So make sure I got my tabbing right. While true. Now, if we look here, we want to look barbarian, knight, or rogue. And what variable is holding if it's a barbarian, knight, or a rogue? 1, 2, or 3. So I would probably want to do if adventure class is equal to a 1. Now this is, I think this is my SQL programming coming out in me. I always wrap things in quotes. And I'm not quite sure if, because it's returning as a string, right? That's what the input is doing, is return a string. Thank you, Michael.
You can wrap the input in int.
And that would cast it.
Cast it over or turn it from a string to an int.
Okay. So what Michael's saying is input here. Input, even though we were saying choose 1, 2, or 3, it's actually returning a string of the number because input by default returns a string. Now what he's saying is you can cast it, so you could put, you could wrap like int around it, right? And then you put it in parentheses, and that would cast it. But by default, adventure class is a string, and that's totally fine. So I'm just gonna keep it like this. If adventure class is equal to 1. Now, why did I do 2 equal signs here? Why didn't I just do that?
Because you have
Right. 1 equal sign is called an assignment operator. That means I'm assigning a value to a variable. So if I got rid of this if, I would be saying adventure class is equal to 1. But I don't want to say that. I want to say if it is equal to 1. That's a comparative statement. When I'm comparing, I need to do 2 equal signs. Okay? So if adventure class is equal to 1, and notice that it automatically tabbed in. So that means the scope is I'm within the if statement. Our health max, so our max health variable, we want to set equal to 75. Our damage, we want to set equal to 20. Our speed, we want to set equal to 8. And our heal rate, we want to set equal to 10. Now, in Python, when we are done with a statement, we need to put break. That means we're finishing that statement. When later on in the code, and I'll show you exactly where, this was the number one issue that I found. I don't know if you guys noticed, but in your code, when it says do you want to attack or run away or guard, and let's say you hit attack, and it says you attack the enemy for 10 damage. Notice that the enemy didn't attack you back. It just says, do you want to attack, run away, or guard? And so I was noticing, I was like, man, I hacked the game, dude. They're never attacking me. The reason why is because you didn't put a break statement. You need to break out of it to go into the enemy's logic so the enemy can take a turn. So I'll go into more detail when we get there, but just know that our break statements are really important, okay? So I want to do something called an else if statement. Does anyone know what that is? So
it's running the loop, and so it's like, okay, well, doesn't equal that, so it jumps down.
Uh-huh.
So else if, if you put 2, it would assign it to 2.
Yep.
And then else if it's not that, then it would go to this one, and then
Yep.
so on.
Yep. You're making multiple branches, and you're saying, if this condition, then this. Otherwise, if this condition, do this. Otherwise, and you can do this as many times as you want. So in Python, the syntax for that is ELIF, else if. Adventure class equals 2. And then make sure to put our colon. And I'm going to do this because I'm lazy. Just kidding, it's not lazy, it's efficiency. Except you got to make sure you get your indentation right. There you go. And it is 60, and it's 15, and it's 5, and I think 15 again is what it was. All right, and then else if adventure class, and this autocomplete is awesome. You can just hit tab and it just knows exactly what you're gonna do. And we're gonna do, I think this one was 50, 10, and 3. This one was 20. Okay, does that make sense so far? Okay, one more thing. When you have else if statements, you should always have, it's good practice to have a default statement. Meaning if all of these conditions fail, what is it going to run? And we do that by saying just else. And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna put a colon here. You don't need to put a condition there because there are no conditions. It's just otherwise. I'm gonna print, and you can write something like invalid input, please enter a valid number. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do this logic again. Right here. I'm just going to copy that and paste it. And the reason why I need to duplicate this code is because it initially does it before that while loop, because you kind of need like an initial, like, let me ask. And then while true, so while you get one of the prompts that you need to give it, then move on, right? Otherwise, you need to put invalid input, please try again, and it's just gonna keep looping through, okay? So then I already added this for you guys. Fight count, that just tells me how many enemies am I gonna fight in the dungeon, and I have it to 5. Run flag, that's if they run away. Fear flag, I'm pretty sure the fear flag was every once in a while there can be a special roll where the enemy causes fear and they do like some sort of special attack or some special ability. Attack roll, that's like, what am I rolling for my attack? What am I rolling for my guard? What am I running to successfully run away? Oh no, this is their enemy special roll. I don't remember what fear is. I'll figure it out when I look at it. And then this one is really important. Health equals health max. So health max is the maximum health your person can have, but health is how much health they currently have. Well, hopefully they got a good night's rest and they're entering the dungeon with full health. So initially we're gonna set it equal to full health, just to start, okay? Now I'm doing another while loop, while the fight count is less than 5. Remember, fight count right now is 0. So it's gonna go 1, 2, or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So inside of random.choice, create a list with the following items: sewer rat, skeleton, zombie. So that's all the different potential enemies we could be fighting. Enemy choice is the variable, and then I have this r.choice. I actually had, I was showing Tayden this earlier, so, but this is how you guys had it. So random is the library, and you put a dot, so you're referencing it, and choice is the function. And you can Google what these functions are. Choice just takes a list of items, whatever the list is you give it, and it picks it randomly. So that means in here, I want to give this function a list. I want to give them a list of strings: sewer rat, skeleton, zombie. How do I make a list of strings? You can create a variable. So where would I create that variable? Okay, and what should I call it? Enemies. Okay. How do I make a list? Squared brackets. Sewer rat. That, yeah, that's French. Okay, sewer rat, skeleton, and zombie. And then what do I do?
Your other parentheses right outside the square brackets.
What do I do?
Your normal parentheses.
that.
The other one you put it on the other side. Right?
What does that do?
So I didn't use the square brackets, but I was still able to.
You didn't use the square brackets? Did you use anything? You just
I just used the regular brackets.
you just scratch the parentheses? Okay. So wait, I'm curious. Did you use what did you use?
Just parentheses.
Use parentheses and that worked?
Yeah, it worked.
Cool. So what you do is you make a list, square brackets or apparently parentheses. So I'll have to look into what the parentheses does. That's how you make your list, and then you'd put enemies right here. Or another way is you could just do this too.
Yeah.
Either way. Either way is fine. Does that make sense? Oh my. I spilt my water everywhere. Okay. So, enemy choice. So, if it's a sewer rat, this is what stats they're going to have. Skeleton. Okay. The fear flag was specifically for the skeleton. I remember now. Okay. Yeah, things like that. I think this might have been leftover from an earlier iteration. I was trying to be more complicated with my classes. Okay, so it says you encountered a enemy, whatever it is. Here's the enemy's health. What does this do? STR parentheses makes it a string. So it's what Michael was saying, but instead of casting as an integer, you're casting it as a string. And then this escaped flag, I think it's for the skeleton. Okay, this while loop. While the enemy health is greater than 0, and your health is greater than 0, and you haven't escaped, so escape flag is equal to 0, then we're going to do the rest of this. So you're going to start off with the player's turn. So it's going to print your turn, player health, while true and fear flag is equal to 0, meaning you put in the correct input, and I still got to get exactly what that fear flag does. I know there's something, but we'll get to it. If player choice is equal to 1, attack roll. And what I did is random int. So I got a random integer between 1 and 20. Remember, the lower bound is inclusive. I think randint, both of them are inclusive. That was that weird case where they were both inclusive. So program the player attack logic. To do so, start by checking if attack roll is less than the speed variable. If it is, set attack roll to 0. Otherwise, set attack roll to be a random integer between 1 and the damage variable. Hint, use the random.randint function. So let's just stop right there, because that's one thing, right? So let me go down so I can cheat. There you go. Okay. So if the player choice is equal to 1, what's the first thing we need to do according to that? Check if the attack roll is less than the speed variable. How can we do that? If this is where you lost it. I know you get a little bit of a word salad and you're like, oh shoot.
Yeah, I started doing a lot of tabs.
Yeah, no, this happens, and like I'm reading it and I'm like zoning out, my eyes are crossing. So you just take one line at a time, okay? So start by checking if the attack roll is less than the speed variable. So if you go back up here, we have attack roll, and somewhere is our speed. Speed. So when I explain these variables to you, what number do you have to get to successfully land an attack?
The speed.
You need at least the speed. It needs to be the speed or greater, right? So when I'm saying check if the attack roll is less than the speed, or I can't remember exactly what I said, or greater than the speed. Check if the attack roll is less than the speed variable. If it is, set the attack roll to 0. So let's say let's say I'm a rogue, so my speed is 3, and I have horrible luck and I rolled a 1. Am I attacking for 1 point?
No.
No, I'm attacking for 0, so I need to set the attack roll to 0.
So you would do attack. No,
if
attack,
attack roll.
and then do like the equal sign and then the less than,
Oh, okay. So it's actually like that. Less than or equal to.
speed.
And so yeah, so we actually just want to do less than, because if it's less than speed, because if it's equal to speed, then we'll be good. So if it's less than speed,
Damage equals 0.
we're gonna do attack roll equals 0. So whatever we rolled, if it's less than speed, just make it 0. Because whatever we rolled is going to be our damage numbers. So if I rolled a 10, I'm hitting 10 points of damage. If I roll an 8, I'm rolling 8 points of damage. If I roll less than speed, I'm hard setting it to 0. Okay? So, like I said, there's 100 ways to skin a cat here. The most efficient way, for whatever reason I didn't do this way, the most efficient way is to maybe do an else statement. The way that I did it in here, just to give you guys some variety, if attack roll, how do we say not in Python? Not equal. I didn't know this until I got my first programming job. What do you call an exclamation point kind of in programming lingo? They call it a bang operator. I remember my first week on the job, my supervisor was like, just put variable bang. I'm like, variable? I'm like writing out bang, and she's like, no, you idiot, the exclamation point. Like, oh, gotcha. So just so you guys don't look like idiots like me, bang would be the exclamation point.
Bang operator is a sweet name.
There you go, bang operator. That's gonna be my gamer tag. I like that. I'm gonna steal that. Okay, if it's not equal to 0, then what are we doing? I kind of lied to you guys a little bit, but let's read it. So it says, start by checking if attack roll was less than the speed variable. If it is, set it to 0. We did that. Otherwise, set the attack roll to be a random integer between 1 and the damage. So
So you just do attack roll equal random integer.
yeah, attack roll. That's why I said I lied to you guys. I said it's whatever you rolled, but that's not true. It's just going to be a random number. Random dot rand int 1 and damage. Remember what the damage variable is? It's whatever the maximum is that your class can do. So if you're a barbarian, you have a higher speed check you have to pass, but you have higher potential to do more damage. Rogue, you're probably going to get more hits in, but you have less maximum damage that you could do. Make sense? Okay. Now this part's important. Am I still in the if statement?
Yeah.
Do I want to be?
No, break.
Right? So let's do, and since I did this up here, I should do that too, since I didn't do an else statement. And now I need to go back out, right? So whatever, my attack roll is now holding how many points of damage I did. What do I need to do? How do I damage the enemy? They have their own health variable. So that's the enemy health. What do I need to do? Let's say they have 10 points of health. What do I need to do to that 10 points of health? Exactly. So let me do it this way first. Enemy health needs to be the enemy health minus the attack roll. Does that make sense?
You just do it like that. You don't have to put it in parentheses or anything.
You don't need to put in parentheses. Enemy health is going to be equal to the enemy health minus the attack roll. What is the shorthand version of this? What is the quick way that I could do this? Enemy health minus equals attack roll. Those are equivalent lines of code. These mean the exact same thing. It's just shorthand. It's saying enemy health is equal to enemy health minus attack roll. Yeah?
I have a question. When I was running the code, the OS system clear was clearing it before it even printed out in the system, so you couldn't read it. It was just going through.
Yeah.
Does the break show it?
No, so the clear was just flushing the system. It's doing exactly what it says. It was just flushing the system before you could read it. Totally fine to just comment it out. Or what you would want to do is, if you wanted to keep the flush, is you would want to print it and then have some sort of like input that stops it.
Put a player in place.
Yeah, put a player input. That's why I think it was you that said like hit enter to continue. That's totally totally fair. There's lots of games I've played where you have like text dialogue and there's like push X to continue. Like that's totally a good way to do it. Or you could just comment it out, whatever. Does this make sense? Okay, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it here because it just makes the syntax look a little simpler. Okay, so the other thing that I did. Let's see. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Okay. To do, if the attack roll is greater than 0, tell the player how much they hit the enemy for. Otherwise, tell the player that they missed. So what do we do here?
Attack roll.
If it's greater than 0, they missed.
Oh, no.
You damaged the. Let's do the F. The F version. I like that. You damaged the enemy choice for
Enemy health. No, it'd be attack roll.
the attack roll. Points of damage. Break. Else. Print. Oh, just kidding. You missed. We got to get some enthusiasm in there. There you go. You missed. Okay. Make sense? That's just for that first one. Okay. Here is the first point where people had a pretty big bug, like a game-breaking bug. If player choice is equal to 1, we need to break that. Code is unreachable. I don't know why I said that. We need to break that because what was happening is when these were left out, oh, maybe it's unreachable because I haven't finished yet. When this is left out, what's happening is it's just gonna continue to, you take your turn, right? Okay, if player choice is equal to 2, program the player's guard logic. So the whole point of guard was kind of a way to heal yourself, right? Get some HP back. You're not doing any damage, but you're getting some HP back. Start by setting guard roll equal to a random number between 1 and heal rate. Add guard roll to the player health. Remember to tell the player how much they healed for. So once again, a lot of information. So let's break it down one thing at a time. Okay, so what's the first thing it says?
Guard roll.
Equal to a random number. So I also spelled guard wrong. It's a little embarrassing, but we're gonna roll with it. Random dot rand int between 1 and what? Heal rate. Perfect. And what are we doing with that guard roll, with that number? So with the attack, we took it away from the enemy. With the heal, we need to add it to our health, right? So our health plus equals guard roll. Does that make sense? Health equals health plus guard roll. Also, it's subjective. I could be prideful and be like, oh, I intended this. Or I could say it's a bug. What is the potential bug with the guard logic right now?
You have unlimited health.
You have unlimited health. So probably the smarter design choice would be if you already have full health, just give a message and be like, hey, you already have full health, I can't guard. But as it is right now, you could just keep spamming it and you could actually give yourself more health. So yeah, good catch. But hey, I meant to do that. I'm like a Bethesda game. That's part of the charm. Like Skyrim. Okay. So let's see what's the next part. Add guard roll to the health variable, which I did. Okay, so all this stuff I already did for you which you're welcome. It was the hardest part. This is like the runaway logic and stuff. Yeah, this is their bonus damage. Okay, now we get into the enemy's turn. So this kind of similar to what we just did. See, I'm going to go down to it. Enemy turn. There we go. So to do, set the attack roll to be a random integer between 1 and 20. Next, check if attack roll is less than enemy speed. If it is, set the attack roll to 0. So it sounds exactly like what we already did, right? Otherwise, set to be random between 1 and the variable named enemy damage. Finally, subtract the attack roll from the health variable. So this is just a rehash, essentially, of what we've already done. So I'm going to kind of breeze through it if that's okay. I'm going to do attack roll equals random.randint, number between 1 and 20. If attack roll is less than the enemy speed, then the attack roll is equal to 0. I'm going to do it the way that I have it coded. If attack roll is not equal to 0, I just don't want to introduce bugs, but you should be able to do an if else here. Attack roll is equal to random.randint between 1 and enemy damage. Break. Health minus equals attack roll. So now I'm taking that attack roll and subtracting it from our health because they hit us, right? And then this is just the game over logic. I also acknowledge, guys, that this game is not perfect. There's bugs, there's weird little quirks. That's to be expected. The point is I want you guys to get the flow of things here. So let's hit run and watch it crash and burn. Oh, here we go. All right, my name is Gerald. What should my class be? Hey, who did 42? Is that this class? Yeah, I dig. We had a secret option that wasn't prompted. It was the hitchhiker class, 42. All right, I liked that. Appreciated that. Okay, so I'm kicking the enemy's butt. Yeah, I see what you mean. See how it's just flashing really quick? Oh, look at this. Got a bug. Hey, wait, do you see? Wait. Hey, cleared it. Do you see my health? Or my health is 183. It's because I kept spamming guard, and then when I finally attacked again. So,
It's not going to that any turn.
oh, not that.
You missed a break.
Yeah, so I'm showing. That's what I'm showing. So, notice, Michael, I'm not going to pretend I meant to do that, but I am going to make it a learning opportunity. So notice how I put the break here so my attack logic was working. And here I forgot my break. So that's what happens when you forget your break. You just keep doing your turn, right? So that's why we had to do that. And that should fix that bug. And 3 also needs it. There you go. And we should be good. And you could fine tune this thing for hours and hours and hours and weeks and days and however you want. But this fulfills the requirement. Any questions on it? Okay.